Hi, my name is Matthew Yu. I'm your student nurse, and today I'll just be putting in your primary and secondary IV tubing.
Okay.
So can you tell me your name and date of birth?
Michael McStuffins, April 6th of 1972.
Okay, and do you have any allergies?
I do not.
Okay, good. Let me just raise this up to a working height. Make sure that the guardrails are down. Just so that makes everything a little bit easier. So I've checked everything with the MAR, and I have your antibiotics for the secondary and your sodium chloride or normal saline for your primary. So first start off, I also have the primary and secondary tubing here, and an empty syringe and alcohol swabs and normal saline in a syringe here. So first to start off, I'll just tear this open and then grab my primary tubing along with the normal saline. So first off, I'll make sure that the clamp is on. You don't want that to start leaking everywhere. Make sure that everything is still here. Should untangle. So we'll make sure to take off the cap for the antibiotic. Make sure that it's sterile, doesn't touch anything, along with the spike. And make sure that it only goes in here. And making sure not to touch any part of the spike, because that must remain sterile. And then again, make sure that the clamp is clamped. And then we can take this off. Try not to touch any of the ports while you're doing this, but you'll cleanse them off anyways. Make sure they're not or kinks. Make sure that this doesn't touch the floor, and then squeeze your drip chamber until it is halfway full. That's about good. Then try to... So now I'm going to be priming the tubing. First I'm going to unclamp this. Just make sure to get this in. Try to hold on to this so that it doesn't there we go. And then make sure to turn on the pump. While we're waiting, make sure that everything is still clamped and that there are no air bubbles. Once you do that, so for our purposes, we will select that this is a new patient and that this is the medical surgical floor. And then since it doesn't have the patient ID, we can just hit confirm here, bottom, then select the pump. Make sure to not select on the side, but on the actual pump itself, click channel select on the one you want to use, which is B. And then for this one, we'll want to use Guardrail IV fluids.
Basic infusion.
Basic infusion. And then for the rate, we'll just say 125, but depending on what you're using, it will vary. And then for the volume, we'll check the bag. It's not 1,000 milliliters, so we'll just put in 999. And then we will just hit start. For all that, we need to actually connect this and then make sure you have alcohol swab to get the port, and then we connect it, making sure to maintain sterility. So the alarm is going off because I didn't connect it first, but that's okay. So we can just hit restart. And before you do this, make sure to flush the IV in, actually. Now we'll just wait for the pump to start.
Clamp.
And make sure that it's unclamped first. Yep, make sure for it to drip. Make sure that it's actually going in.
One.
Yep, it's going. And since now we'll just pause. And then for the secondary tubing, you'll want to make sure that you get the actual tubing here. So for this one, to prime it, you will need to do something a little different, where you will just back prime it. So first we'll just take this off, along with the spike, and then insert here. And since I did touch the side of it with the spike, I would have to get a new one, but for demonstration purposes, we'll just continue. Make sure that it's all the way in there, while making sure to mind your clamps before you invert it. And make sure you get this. And so normally this would be hanging lower, but first we're going to back prime it. And make sure you have your alcohol. And find a port that's closest to the pump itself. And then just wipe it down with alcohol. Make sure to take this off, making sure that it doesn't touch anything. And make sure that the secondary IV is lower than the primary, and then you just unclamp and it should back prime. There we go. As you can see, all the air bubbles are flowing back in. Then wait for the chamber to fill halfway, or not actually, and then clamp it once it's fully primed. And then you will want to try to squeeze it until it's halfway in. Now, take off the primary, then hang it lower than the secondary. And then hang your antibiotic up here. It says lactated ringers, but for demonstration purposes, we'll be pretending that this is ceftriaxone. And now to actually get the pump acclimated to the secondary, the piggyback, you will click channel select again, then hit secondary on the bottom right here. And then you'll scroll down to whatever your antibiotic is. For this one, it will be ceftriaxone. And then you'll confirm whichever it says on the bag, but since it doesn't say, we'll just say 1,000 milligrams for 50 milliliters. And then it will ask you to double check the medication administration record. And is this correct? You'll say yes or no, depending on. Then verify that everything is correct, then hit next. Verify a final time, and then press start. Ensure that the pump's light is green, which means that it's infusing, and then look at the drip chamber on the secondary to make sure that it actually is infusing, which it is, as you can see by the drip. And then we can finish 5 rails and make sure that the bed is lowered down to the lowest height possible so that to avoid patient falls. And then make sure to document time, date, patient response, procedure performed, and patient reactions, if any. And then make sure to provide pertinent education on why the antibiotics or fluids are being given. And then perform hand hygiene and inform the patient when you'll be returning.